Hi everyone, our objectives in this video are to access Pear Deck, to use the templates, to add engagement to your Google slide deck with Pear Deck questions, presenting Pear Deck, and sharing with students. Hey everyone, so here we are getting ready to learn how to use Pear Deck. So if you didn't install it yet, go and watch the installation video and you'll be all set to start this video again when you have it installed. All right, so if you installed it, you have it up here. It says Pear Deck with Perry, and we can click on it and it opens a sidebar on the right. So I'm just going to move myself over here. Okay, so here is our Pear Deck sidebar, and if you notice, I'm in Google Slides. So Pear Deck only functions in Google Slides, right? What it does is it makes your Google Slides interactive. So if you're used to delivering presentations to your students, you can add interactive elements throughout your Google Slide to make sure that they're engaged, formatively assess, and just to see where they are in general. Okay, so you can do this in two modes, and there are videos below this to tell you how to present this in the two different modes. One is teacher-paced mode, which I strongly suggest using first, especially if your students aren't used to using Pear Deck. It's a great way for them to learn how to use it. So when you do release the reins and send them into a student-paced mode, they'll be more familiar with it and be more successful, and there will be significantly less frustration. Okay, so the first thing that we see over here is a template library. Okay, so if we click on template library, there are many different types of templates here. All right, so our first one that we encounter is lesson builders. And if you notice, it's divided into three sections. Ultimately, you really could use one or two things from this particular section and build an entire lesson, and then just use your own lecture as the part where you're delivering your direct instruction, and then your interaction could come with these lesson builders. So that sounds great, but what's inside of them? So let's click. So as you can see, there are many different beginning of lesson slides here, and you can simply click on one and put it into your lesson. So I'll show you. If I just click on it, takes a minute, and it puts it right into my lesson. And what's going to happen, and you'll see this in the student view of Pear Deck, they'll have a box to the right of this that they can type in. It almost looks like a social media field. Okay, if you want to modify this a little bit, you can change anything on this template. So everything is modifiable. You can even move the person, add your own person, or whatever. And I know that kind of defeats the purpose of a template, but I just wanted to tell you that you can modify this anyway and customize it any way you like. Here's another one that you might like, and it'll add it right underneath. And it's draw two things you already know about today's topic. Now, these are great jumping off points for classroom engagement also. So if you look at the teacher dashboard, you can see who responds, and you can say to them, oh, Sarah, can you read your response? Or, oh, Dana, can you read your response? And they'll be prepared to read their response. So there'll be less embarrassment or less anxiety about talking in class or unmuting and turning their screen on to talk in class. So I'm going to go back. So here we are in the During Lesson tab. And as you can see, there are more templates that you can choose from. So you can have your students create a mind map. You can have them go through a stretch break. I put this in my lesson once and my students just moved forward through it. They didn't want to do it. I like this one too. Do you feel comfortable sharing your thoughts right now? And I think that's really important, especially with, some of the things that are happening today. So, you want to make sure everybody's comfortable responding to some of the content that we might be talking about or might not be talking about. So there are a few in during the lesson. So if we look here at end of lesson, there are some great exit tickets that you can use. Here's something that I use for formative assessment. So I actually used this in one of my professional developments, and somebody wasn't happy, and she wasn't happy because she missed one of the technology instructions, so she was behind, and it only took me a minute to catch her up, and everybody was happy again. So it might look elementary, but in the same vein, it's a really quick and easy way to get somebody back on task or back on target where you need them to be. This is another one that I use all the time, and a lot of times I'll add this to a flip grid. Or, you can even just leave it right here. Pretend your friend was absent from class today. Write what you would say if you had to explain the lesson. This is such an empowering moment because now you're asking your students to teach another student. And you could even ask them to make the tutorial. And if a student was absent that day, maybe you share that tutorial because it was really great. And not only are you empowering the student who made the tutorial, but maybe it's in words that are more to their age or style, and they understand the content a little bit better. Reflect on today's activity. This is just a 4-corner type activity. What did you like? What was easy? What didn't you like? What was hard? And you can even use this to drive your next day's lesson. So we can move back here. And as you go through, you can kind of click through these on your own. There's some critical thinking slides. There's some social emotional learning slides. Then you could go down even further you can find slides that are distinct to your subject. All right, so if we move down a little bit more, we have these ask students a question area. Okay, so these are great because you can create your own slide and you can say, what problems do you see in the classroom currently? All right, so I can make this a text slide where students have to write a short answer or even a long answer. There's really no limit to the characters. I can make this multiple choice. I can add a website and ask my students to look at a different resource and to include that resource include evidence in a response. I can ask them to draw the problem. So maybe they, draw you a picture. So you can use any one of these to add interactive ability also. So maybe you notice that you want your students to pay attention to exactly what you've done in that class period, and you know that you said something and they're going to miss something and they're going to miss part of the instructions. So here's my instruction slide, and I want to make sure that they understand it. So I'm going to add audio. And you can add any type of audio you want. You can do some direct instruction. You can add some just regular instructions on what they have to do next. I'll do that a lot because, as we know, they don't listen all the time. And you can add maybe further explanation, just some reminders, maybe from the class prior, maybe some discussion, anything that you want to add. So all you do is hit record and you talk and you talk and you talk and you add anything that you want to and you hit pause, just save it and listen to it here and go to add audio. You don't have to worry about making it public for your students to see. It's right here and you don't have to worry about it. When they're going through, they'll see a little icon with headphones and they can click on it and then they can listen to it. If you scroll down here, there's some Be Internet Awesome content. This is from Google and there are pre-made slides that you can use for digital citizenship. And here's some information about how Pear Deck works. To share your lesson with your students, all you have to do is click Start Lesson. And here's where you have your option to do student paced or instructor paced. I strongly suggest you start instructor paced so you can teach your students how to use Pear Deck before you let them go in student paced activity. That's just a nice way to scaffold learning technology and you can help them through it in that sense. So I'll click on instructor paced. And this is what I'm going to share with my students. So I can either prompt them to go to joinpd.com and type in this code. It's always the same one, joinpd.com, joinpeardeck.com, or I can share a link with them. I can also invite their Google Classroom to the Pear Deck. So when you click on Invite Google Classroom, it's going to connect to your Google Classroom. And you can choose the class that you would like to push it out to. I'm just going to add it to my test class. I'm going to invite this section, and it's that simple. The invitations are sent. All they have to do is click on it. So that's how you make a Pear Deck. It's how you add templates. That's how you add the different forms of questions. All you have to do is click on them. It's absolutely awesome. It's very intuitive and very easy to use. I hope you like it.